Hey everyone, so today I wanted to talk about Tesla dropping their car prices to a record low in January, which has the car market in a free fall at this point, with the Model Y being $13,000 less expensive, with the tax credit now being available up until March 2023, and it may be reduced afterwards or stay the same. We don't know, but we know that there's a good tax credit right now for $7,500 on the Model Y and the Model 3. We understand that this drastic drop in car prices has now sent the used car market in a free fall as well. So now the used car market is going to cost less, especially for EVs like Teslas, Ys and 3s. So those who may have just lost their job or could not afford the payment anymore and thought that they could sell for the same, if not even more money, they're now taking a $13,000 loss if it was the Model Y, and I believe $5,000 to $7,000 loss if it's the Model 3. On top of that, you cannot sell it as though it was new, so you're gonna take another 1,000, 2,000, maybe even more off. And what I've seen right now is similar to the housing market. People are dropping their prices by $1,000 or $2,000, expecting people to bite, expecting people to bid. And I just don't see that as a reasonable drop. Now, I completely understand it, because if someone was just an inch away from being able to purchase that home and they really wanted it, then yes, $2,000 may just allow that person to get into that home. But essentially, they would be purchasing it at their max buying power, and that would be a terrible financial situation for them. Instead of dropping the price a little bit lower and then allowing for more bidders, you're looking for literally the one highest bidder to bid against themselves with no wiggle room whatsoever. And then they may drop out because of it. They may not be able to afford it when the banks do their little analysis. So same thing in the car market. You're trying to sell a used car with 28,000 miles for $1,000 cheaper than what you can get new, or a used car for $2,000 cheaper than what you can get new. It financially makes 0 sense. The fact that people are doing this means that used cars will not sell whatsoever. It just won't, until you have adjusted your price to meet the fair market value of that vehicle. Right now, vehicles are not fair market, and therefore they're not selling. People would essentially rather buy new than to buy the used versions, especially at those price points. So what we'll see is Tesla dropping their prices has increased demand drastically, because they didn't drop by 2 or 3,000. They dropped by 7 to 13,000 depending on the vehicle. And because of that, there's a lot more buyers able to now purchase the vehicle. And because of that, they're going to see an increase in demand as their supply has gotten higher. Now, I do not believe Tesla demand is dwindling. I just believe that their supply is increasing, and that's due to more productivity from their workers, more productivity from the chains that they have built, the logistics facilities that they have in place, and the growth in which they're scaling has now allowed for them to be able to make vehicles to meet demand. And in order to continue to have people on back orders and continue to have vehicles that need to be made to meet demand, they've dropped their costs in order to increase the amount of orders that they have pending, which will allow them to basically say, hey, we are going to essentially always have a buyer in our pool. So as Tesla demand kind of equals out with the manufacturing demand, what we'll see is they either scale back on their workforce or they continue to bring out incentives and deals in order to sell these Tesla vehicles. Here's the thing, Tesla is their own dealership. They're selling their own used cars. They're selling new cars. They're selling all these things. What do dealers typically do? They give incentives, they give rebates, they give discounts. They give all types of stuff. When Tesla demand was high, they did not need to do any of that. Now that the demand is equaling out, they're giving incentives in order to stay above pace. Similar to what those dealerships were doing when they had low inventory, what were they doing? They were selling at a high price point. They were selling at a price point so high that it really did not justify buying the car because it was overvalued. Tesla cars were overvalued and they were profiting heavily for 3 to 4 years. Now that the value is dwindling, now that the interest rates are higher, now that a lot of other factors have contributed to the decline in orders, they are now adjusting to the market because they're the dealer. They need to ensure that every single car that they make sells. On top of that, they have more cost than a dealership because they have employees who have to make more vehicles or be laid off because they're not selling as many vehicles. They have employees that are customer service reps. They have employees that are inspectors. They have employees that run the sales department. They have all of these things, right? So they are literally a one-stop shop, which can cut out the middleman, which is great because you don't have to give incentives to others. You give incentives to your company and your people, and you maintain some of those profits. But at the same time, you're going to see more cuts than just this. 3, 4, 5 years from now, you'll see cheaper models. Elon Musk has already talked about the $25,000 vehicle EV that he wants to bring out. And, there'll be more to come. There'll be more people trying to compete with that. And in a inflated market where 25,000 is pre-pandemic level pricing, in 2023, that sounds like a steal. That sounds like you get a lot more bang for your buck and you get a much newer vehicle. With that being said, the cost of ownership will be even cheaper if you simply wait. Because as vehicles continue to depreciate, it just seems as though the cost to get into these vehicles are getting better, and better. Now, pre-pandemic level pricing, you could get a brand new 2020 or 2019 vehicle for about $20K. So a $25,000 EV is about $5K higher than 2020, 2019. But again, with inflation and everything else, that seems like it's right at par with what the market should be at. And if you wait 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you'll be right back to buying an EV for $17,000 used after 3 years. So that's just my take on what's happening with Tesla. I still think it's a great brand. I still think it has a lot of value to offer. It's a lot more expensive than, let's say, manufacturing an iPhone. But if they continue to corner the market, if they continue to basically shrink their competitors by forcing them to charge less, they are going to literally dominate for a few more years to come without much competition or headwind outside of these much more experienced car dealers, car manufacturers like Ford or GM and things like that. They'll be able to stick around. Toyota, Honda, they'll be able to stick around. But those newer EV manufacturers may not be able to do so, especially at those price points right now, currently, when they're still trying to build infrastructure, when they're still trying to scale, when they're still trying to increase demand, when they're still trying to get as much profit as possible in order to not be debt heavy, especially in a debt heavy environment where that is a lot more expensive. So you will see a lot of EV manufacturers fall into the wayside in 2023 because they simply cannot compete with the new price points that are being set in place. And that is definitely going to cripple a lot of the competition. When you're in business, your job is also to cripple competition, and that is exactly what Tesla is doing. If you like this video, make sure you leave a comment, like, and subscribe. You know I post every single day at 8 a.m. daily, and I can't wait to see you on the next one. Peace.